second video, we're going to go through how to do some of the validation checks, so presence checks, length checks, and value and table lookups that you will need. First of all, I have gone through and I've deleted all of the relationships that were made at the end of video number 1. Okay, and this is so that we can essentially go through each of those things and make sure that they are the pieces of data that we need it to be, and numbers are numbers, for instance, that's consistent along, and also to use the relevant lookups which are going to give those one-to-many relationships that we need. Okay, all I did to delete those was to right click and just press delete. So for instance, if I put one in again and create it, and then show you that all I did was I right clicked and then I deleted, and it said did I want to delete it. Once I close that, that will be absolutely fine. I'm going to open each of my tables one after the other and just go through each of these things. So in the first thing, I have now changed the data type to being a number. So when I am in my database view, my table view, I can now see that all my cleaners go from 1 to 32 rather than all being muddled up like they were before when it was being put in as text. I can also see that my supervisors are numbers. So when I go back into design view, I potentially want to save my supervisors as being numbers as well. Okay, so these are the sorts of things that come under those checks. So for instance, in the field size, they're cleaner because they're only ever double integers. Then I could actually change that long integer if I wanted to, and I could change that to being a double. That just means a double figure number. Every time you make a change, close it so that your thing will change. It will give you a warning, and it says one of the files has been changed to a shorter size. If data is lost, you're in trouble. Do you want to continue anyway? If you're certain that that's going to be fine, it will give you an extra error if it tells you it's going to delete records. If ever you get an error saying it's going to delete records, press no, I don't want to make those changes. So just go through them one at a time. So what we're doing here basically is putting in those sorts of length checks. So I'm quite happy that my cleaner ID is a number and that is double. So if you wanted to do a field size check, a length check, you could screenshot that, and then that would be absolutely fine. Also, as you're going through, you want to do some validation rules down here. Okay, so down here it says that this is required. Okay, and it also says that it's indexed, that there are no duplicates. It's done that automatically because we have set that as a primary key. Okay, the required bit is very, very important, but we also want to put in a validation rule in there, and we're literally just going to type in is not null. Okay, now if it is null, we want a validation text to pop up, okay, to say please enter a cleaner ID. Okay, now you only have to capture one of those presence checks. So this is not null, please enter a cleaner ID, and required yes is a presence check. That means that if we did leave it out and try and add some data into our table, it would force us then to enter that piece of data because it's important data. We want to go through each of our tables and each of our data types in turn. So supervisor ID is a number. Okay, it's not a long integer. It's actually a single digit. Okay, it says it's not required. I think it probably should be required, so I'm going to change that to being yes. Duplicates are okay in this particular table because it's not the primary key. So again, I want my is not null being my validation check, and then my validation text is please enter a supervisor ID. Okay, so again, anytime I want to check that it's worked, okay, says integrity rules have been changed, existing data may not be valid. That's fine. I didn't get another warning, okay, which means when I open my table, all my data is still there. So it's just giving you a little bit of a warning every time you go through. Now, all of the rest of them I'm going to leave as text. You would think a telephone number I would change to a number, but if I do that, it doesn't like the space in the middle of my data. So I'm going to leave that. My gender, however, is a 1-digit character. Okay, so my gender is already set to short text, which is absolutely fine, but my field size has been set to 255. I don't want my field size to be 255 because it's just one letter. So I'm going to set that to being 1. Okay, and again, I'm going to open that back up. That's absolutely fine. All my data is still there. And everything else seems to be working perfectly. Okay, so that's the sort of thing that you need to do when you're doing a field or a validation check. You only have to screenshot a few, but you then have to say which ones you have applied it to. Okay, so it is really quite important that you keep a list as you go through. In my mind, I think the easiest way to do it is to take a screenshot of all of your relationships like this. Okay, and then to go through to say which you've done to it. Have you checked it? Have you checked it's the right data type? Have you checked that it's valid? Etc, etc, etc. It really is quite important to make sure that you've gone through and at least changed all the ones that are number to number in here. Okay, so I'm going to go through and do that just now. So my cleaning job is a number, so I need to make sure that that's a number, and my cleaning service is a number, and my job star rating is a number. Okay, so in my design view, my job ID, okay, I want to being a number. Okay, it's giving me a long integer, so that should be okay. So when I close that, alright, it says it's been changed to a shorter size, but actually it hasn't said it's deleted any details, so I'm fine with that. Okay, my cleaner ID, if I go back in here, my cleaner ID is also a number. That I set to double on the other one, so I'm going to do the same thing in here. I'm going to set it to a number, and I'm going to go to my drop down, and I'm going to set it to a double. Again, anytime I want to change, I close. Okay, and it seems to be that I'm fine. The cleaning service, however, is a 1-digit number. Okay, so my cleaning service, I'm going to change again to a number. It is not a long integer, it is a single-digit number. Okay, I know this seems a little bit ridiculous to keep closing it and opening it and closing it and opening it, but this way you're absolutely going to get you're going to get no errors, and you're going to not end up deleting any data, which is good. The cleaning service is a date, and then the job star rating is also a number. Okay, so in here we have date time, so we can change that to being a date time. And then here we also want a number, and the star rating is a single digit, because you're just getting a digit from 1 to 3. So yes, I'm saving it. Yes, I'm saving it. And I've still got all my data in there, and it's all perfect. So now my data types look a little bit different. I've got number, 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 date time, number. Okay, so that's what I want to have in my table in there. Remember, as you go through, put in your validation rules. I'm trying to take a little bit of a shortcut to keep the video as short as possible. So the cleaning service, I want this to be a single-digit number, so I'm going to change that one. I don't want this one to be short text. I want it to be number. And that's going to be a single digit number. My cleaning service as a short text is absolutely fine. I'm going to leave that one. Okay, check it's still there. That's absolutely fine. And then my table for my supervisors here. Again, my supervisor, I want a single digit number. So instead of short text, I want a number. I want to have a single digit number. Okay, and then supervisor and supervisor email as short text should be absolutely fine. Okay, so now I've gone through and I've changed some of those lengths. So I've now done all of my length checks that I needed to. I've done all my data checks to check for the type. I've done my presence checks, or at least I've shown you how to do 1 or 2, and then you need to do all the rest. Okay, I'm now going to do some lookups. So again, I'm going to start. Now this is where we start to do the relationships between the things. Okay, so we're going to open one table at a time. The cleaner ID won't have a lookup, but this supervisor ID appears in another table. So I want it to look up from this table into the supervisor table. Okay, so we must do it the right way round. You're never looking up from your primary key. So if in doubt, okay, if you find yourself doing a lookup from your primary key, you're doing it wrong. So supervisor. So we're now going on to what are called your table lookups. We're going to do table lookups, and then we're going to do value lookups, and then some range checks, and then that should be us for this activity, and then that will finish activity number 2 for us. So down here I want to go to lookup wizard. Okay, I want the lookup field to get the values from another table or query. That's exactly what I want it to do. So what I'm doing now is a table lookup, hence the fact that I've got all the tables. So I'm now thinking to myself, where am I going to find my supervisor ID? I'm going to find it in my supervisor table. Okay, and I want it to literally look up my supervisor ID from that. Okay, doesn't really matter whether I set it to be ascending or not, and it's going to look up 1, 2, remember 3 was missing, 4 or 5. How would I like the columns to look in my lookup field? That looks absolutely perfect to me. Okay, what label would you like for your lookup field? Okay, so it's automatically setting it to a supervisor ID, and I'm just going to put that it's a label. Okay, and when I finish that, it says it must be saved. Okay, and then when I close that, when I go back into my relationships, I can now see that I have this relationship that's been formed. Okay, so in order to form the relationship properly, I need to enforce the referential integrity button that's at the top. And then when I press OK, that's when I get my 1 to infinity sign. That means that one supervisor in here could be linked to several supervisors in here. Okay, don't worry about changing that label supervisor bit in there. That's absolutely fine. So do we see how that carries on and works? Let's open that again. Let's open it up into design view. If we want to check what that likes, in fact I don't really like the fact that it's become label, so I'm going to take that off because I just think it looks messy. Okay, so that's alright, I've just changed that. It now says supervisor ID again. When I go to look up down here and click on this one, it tells me where it's looking it up from. So it tells me it's got a combo box, it's looking it up from a table, and it's exactly saying it's going to the table supervisors. It's looking at the supervisor ID from that table. So this select bit is for those of us who are interested. This is writing that in SQL or SQL for us oldies. Okay, and it's telling us to select certain data from a certain table. Okay, we can write a lot of things in databases and query in SQL because that's what it was designed to do, but the lookup prevents us from having to learn it, which is really, really good. Okay, one thing that's also quite good is it then says, do I want to limit to list? Well, actually, yes, I do. I don't want to create any more supervisors in there. Do I want to allow multiple values? No, I don't, because otherwise I'm going to have the same cleaner with more than one supervisor, and that's going to be not allowed. Okay, to allow value edit lists, I'm going to say in this circumstance, no. In some circumstances, you may want to. You may want to say, yes, I'm allowing that cleaner to change that supervisor, and I'm editing the list. But for the purpose of the database things that we're doing, we're just going to say no. Okay, so I'm going to save all my changes to that. And then I need to go into some of my other ones. So I'm going to open them one bit at a time. So cleaner ID. Cleaner ID I wanted to look up from somewhere. So again, I'm going to look up the wizard. I want it to get values from another table. Where am I going to find my cleaner ID? I'm going to find my cleaner ID in my cleaning table. So I'm going to select that. There it is. There's my cleaner ID. And I'm going to press next and next. The cleaner IDs are all there. There are 22 of them. I'm going to press next, and I'm just going to want to call it cleaner ID in there. Okay. So again, it says it must be closed before it gets saved. If I open my database tools, it's now created that link for us. So it's told me that the cleaner ID here has been linked to the cleaner ID here. Okay, so it should always be that the primary key should be the end with the 1. So if you edit the relationships and enforce your referential integrity and you don't get a 1 on your primary key end, then somehow you've gone and done that wrong. Okay, so back into my cleaning jobs. So my cleaning service, that needs to look up from somewhere else as well. So my lookup wizard, I want it to go to the table. I'm trying to find my cleaning service ID. Hopefully that's going to be in that table in there. Cleaning service ID, there it is. Okay, next. Yeah, that all looks good. And I'm going to finish. It tells me that I must be saved for that to actually register. I go back into my relationships and there it is. Okay, so my cleaning service ID has gone to my cleaning service in here. And again, when I edit my relationship and I enforce referential integrity, okay, I get my 1 to many. So I should now have all of the 3 links that I had before. So from my supervisor to my cleaner should be my 1 to the little infinity, that means to many. And then my cleaner ID to my cleaner ID should be my 1 to infinity here. My service ID, cleaning service ID to my cleaning service ID, okay, should be my 1 here to my many here. So just as a recap, the 1 should always be on the primary key. 1 is on the primary key, 1 is on the primary key. That should be what your screenshot looks like at the end of activity 1. So in my mind, you maybe want to do your table lookup so that you have a really good relational table before you carry on with any of the other things. Now, there are other things where we don't necessarily want to look it up from another table, but we may want to look up some values. So what do I mean by that? If I open my cleaner table, actually it would be most beneficial if this was a little drop down, which just told me that I wanted it to be the male or the female, the M or the F. So again, I can go into gender and I can create a lookup wizard, but this time I will type in the values that I want. So I want it to appear as either M or F. Okay, those are the only values that I want. What label would you like for your lookup field? We're just going to call it gender. Do you want to limit entries to the choices? Yes, I do. I don't want to have any other gender. Do you want to store multiple values for this lookup? No, I don't. Okay, and then when I finish, if I go to lookup down here, it will tell me that that's what I've got in there. Okay, so it will tell me that I've got a combo box again, but this time I've got a value list. Before I had a table. Okay, and I've got some things in there. Now I can also make that into a validation rule if I wanted to. Okay, so I can say that I only want to have as a rule M or F. Okay, what that will do, sorry I didn't mean to click off that then, go back onto there. Okay, so it tells me that I'm only allowed to have an M or an F, and as a validation text, I'm going to say, please enter M for male or F for female. Okay, again, it's saying, is it required? Well, I think it probably is, so I'm going to change that. All of those are all validation checks. So I've got a field size check, I've got a validation check, so I'm checking it's present. Okay, and it also means that when I go back into here, yes, I will save my table. Yeah, don't you worry. Okay, what I should now see is a drop down where I can only enter my M or my F. Okay, so you need to think quite carefully about where that goes. Again, if you take a screenshot of your relationships here, you can then start to annotate them. What data types are they? How do they link? Which ones would it be advisable to have a drop down for? So I've got in this table, I've got a little annotated version on paper which says I need a lookup in here. And I've got a little annotation to say that I want to have a lookup here, that I actually want to change the job star rating in my cleaner job table, and that I want it to look up either 1, 2 or 3. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to need my cleaning job table. I'm going to open that up, look in design view, my job star rating, I'm going to do a lookup. Okay, and again, it's the values that I want it to be. So it's going to be either 1 or 2 or 3. And I'm going to limit to my list again. And I'm going to finish. Okay. When I go back into my database view, again, I can only have 1, 2 or 3. That's exactly as you want it to be. Alright, so your cleaning service is only the cleaning services from 1 to 6. Okay, so we could also have your cleaning service ID as being only a number between 1 and 6. Okay, and in which case I can also put these in as a range check. Okay, so not only can I have a little drop down here, so I can make a little lookup wizard. Okay, it's already a primary key, so I can't do that. So instead I'm going to put in a validation rule, and I'm going to say that I want that number to be between 1 and 6. Okay, now if I try to add anything that's not between 1 and 6, then hopefully it will tell me that that is wrong, that I cannot possibly do that. That's pretty much all my checks done. I might go back to here and say in my job star rating I might put in a range check in there. So my job star rating was the number that according to my lookup could only be 1, 2 or 3. So I can put that again in a validation rule. So I can say I want it to be between 1 and 3. And I can say please enter a number between 1 and 3. It will tell you on your activities exactly what you have to take your screenshots of, exactly how many of them you are expected to do. Okay, but those are all the checks that you should need. So we've done a presence check, that's when you put in is not null and you say that it needs to be there. We've done a length check where we've changed our numbers to being either double digits or single digits, or as for the male and female, we just wanted a single character, so we changed the 255 to being a character of 1. We've added some range checks by saying that we wanted our numbers to be between 1 and something. So we did that twice. We did that for our rating and we did that for our cleaning service. And we've done some table lookups, which then gives us all of the integrities that we need in our relationships so that we can do a screenshot. At this point in time, you have now finished activity number 2. And as long as you've taken all the screenshots, that will be me stopping there.